One of the first titles that really got me into the Indian Kickstarter scene was Yooka-Laylee, an interesting project from a group of former Rare members who hoped to bring back the glory days of the late 90s 3D platformer. When the title finally released in 2017, opinions were highly mixed. Some loved it, saying it was a fantastic trip down memory lane, whilst others heavily criticised it, saying it felt dated. For me, I fell in the middle. Whilst I did enjoy it, I did have some issues with the camera, and some of the later worlds felt a bit uninspired. That being said, I did have a fondness for the lizard and bat duo, and hoped one day they'd return. And lo and behold, at E3 this year, a sequel was finally announced. Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair finally released, and it's in my hands, so let's see if Playtonic finally delivered. The original Yooka-Laylee took inspiration from the games like Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64 and Conker's Bad Fur Day, titles that defined 3D platformers back in the day, with a huge amount of collectibles to find as well as big open areas to explore. But the Impossible Lair takes a very different approach this time. Instead of being a 3D platformer, Playtonic decides to go back to their 2D roots, with a classic Donkey Kong Country series being the inspiration. And honestly, I think it's for the better. The game's many worlds are meticulously created, with plenty of clever platforming moments and enemy encounters. Early levels ease you in with the basics, but later ones really do test your platforming skills, putting up jumps with pinpoint precisions. A great example of this would be the game's titular Impossible Lair, which I'll talk about later. It's also in part in how brilliant Yooka is to control. He feels very grounded and not floaty to control at all. So if you make a mistake, it feels very fair and probably most likely is your fault. Along with Laylee on him, Yooka can take an extra hit, but after that Laylee will fly around, giving you a chance to catch her. And keeping hold of Laylee is much more than just having another hit point, as with her by your side you can do moves such as a body slam and your roll lasts a little bit longer. By all means you can leave Laylee and just go ahead as Yooka, but you'll be missing out on those extra moves. You can also retrieve Laylee back by ringing a special bell that calls her to you. She kind of reminds me a bit of Diddy Kong in that aspect. The game's levels are full of secrets and collectibles, from the game's Twit coins, which are the game's in-game currency that is used to pay trousers, hilariously Snake and Trousers, to remove his in-game paywalls. Don't worry, there's no microtransactions here, there's just plenty of rib tickling at the gaming industry's money grabbing ways. There's also a few secret exits for some levels, and there's also a load of quills that can be used for tonics, also more on that later, but the main aim of each level is to get the B at the end of the level. When you complete a level in other 2D platformers, you just go back to the world map and pick your next level, but in Impossible Lair it does things a little bit differently. See, there is a world map here, but it's much more than a level select screen. It's like a traditional 2D Zelda game, as the world is full of secrets and feels like a game in itself. A fair amount of your time will be spent equally in both the levels and the overworld. It feels very well created and does bring back memories of the recent Link's Awakening remake. It's that good. It's something really different that works so well, and I hope we see this approach in future 2D platformers. And the game changing stuff doesn't stop there, as each of the game's 20 levels has a second variation that drastically changes up the level with new challenges, enemies, secrets and collectibles. All you have to do is trigger an action in the overworld, like chucking ice on some water in the level, for the whole level to freeze over. It's a really clever design choice, and the variations are drastically different from the base level, so you could literally say you've got 40 levels. The game is littered with collectibles, from the 5 Twit coins in each level and its variation, to the bees which are in both levels and the overworld, and are needed for the Impossible Lair. And then there's the Tonics. If you played the original, you remember they're sort of cheats that help out the players and offer fun additions to the gameplay. And in the Impossible Lair, they return here in a huge way. With well over 60 of the buggers, they vary from helping you out, like the ability to keep Twit coins if you die before a checkpoint, or allowing all the quills to come to you without having to go the extra mile to get them. We also have some that make the game harder, like giving googly eyes for enemies that allow each enemy to take an extra hit before they die. to changing the controls to even changing the visuals with a cool Game Boy filter to reducing the screen ratio to the classic 4:3. The tonics also have a cool risk-reward element to them. With every tonic you equip, it affects a meter to how many quills you can get. Some multiply the amount you receive, whilst other reduces that multiplier. It's a clever idea, as you need those quills to buy the tonics you've found in the overworld. Now it's time to talk about the game's final level, the impossible lair, and actually you could go straight for the impossible lair straight from the get-go. But you'd highly likely get your backside handed to you on a plate, but you can try it if you want to. To best prepare for the impossible lair, you need to complete levels and collect the members of the Bee-Talion to protect you in the lair, as each act as a hit, and with 48 bees to collect, these will help you greatly in the lair. And boy, you'll need it, as the impossible lair will provide a stern and hardy challenge. You need to take everything you'd learnt in the game and put it to good use. The lair is incredibly long, with 4 bosses mixed in as well. It's tough, and if you die anywhere in the level, you will have to start straight from the get-go, as there's no checkpoints whatsoever. It's a glorious, brutal affair. One thing I love about the game is it can be played however you want, and that's what I like. There's no linear progression here whatsoever. You're free to choose how you want to tackle the game. You can do the impossible lair straight away, and if you complete that without any bees, you're a gamer of superhuman power, and I have the utmost respect for you. But for everyone else, getting all the bees, or at least a decent amount, is needed before ever thinking of tackling the lair again. As for the game's length, if you complete the impossible lair straight away, you're talking around, you could complete the game in half an hour, but you will certainly not be able to do that. So for a normal typical playthrough, you're talking about a good 8 to 10 hours to complete all 40 levels to get all the bees. But if you want to get all the collectibles, all the twit coins, all the tonics, you're talking easily around 20 hours, which is quite impressive indeed. I have gone so far into the review and I haven't even talked about the story yet, so it's probably best I talk about it. It goes like this: Capital B is up to his usual tricks again, trying to cause havoc again by capturing loads of Queen Phoebe's Bee-Talion bees for his evil cause, along with creating his impossible lair. So it's up to Yooka and Laylee to stop Capital B again by trying to get all the battalion back, as well as clearing the impossible lair. Its story certainly isn't Shakespeare, but it's an enjoyable little tale, and it's strengthened by the brilliant writing, bringing back Rare's classic dry British humour that's chock-a-block full of puns. It's absolutely hilarious, and it does add a heck of a lot of charm to the game. On to the presentation now, and the original Yooka-Laylee on whatever console you played on suffered from pretty bad performance all around at launch. From frame rate drops to long loading screens, it was a bit of a disappointing showcase, but later patches did fix most of all the problems. But the impossible lair is a real technical tour de force on whatever console you decide to play it on. From the Switch all the way up to the Xbox One X, you're treated to a rock-solid 60fps experience with only the resolution that sets the consoles apart. I played it on Switch, and I have to admit, whilst the resolution was lower, it still looked lovely on the big screen, displaying at around the 720p mark, whilst on the portable play we're talking at around 540p. Either way you play the game, it's a wonderful game to look at, and both playstyles have a super smooth 60fps without any drops at all. The only real problem I have with it is that the load times are a little bit long, especially when loading up the game for the first time. It can take upwards of a minute, but at least when you die in the game, it loads up the checkpoints pretty quickly, so it isn't too bad. Conclusion time now, and Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair is a huge improvement over the original in every single way. By going for a 2D platformer, we see Playtonic really showing how talented they truly are. Feeling like a new Donkey Kong Country, the Impossible Lair is pure 2D platforming bliss, standing side by side with the greats. Its levels are well designed and packed with secrets, and the variations are really different as well and very enjoyable. Its Zelda-like overworld is awesome and a real game changer. The ability to tackle the impossible lair whenever you want adds a great sense of freedom to how you tackle the game, and the tonics are a lovely inclusion with a great risk-reward element to them. Yooka-Laylee and the impossible lair is one of the biggest surprises of the year for me, and certainly one of the best. So with that, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 with the title of brilliant. Thank you for watching my review. Like, rate and subscribe, and until next time, happy gaming. Bye.